I think typically you probably expect that from the captain, wouldn't you, Danny? At least
Yeah,
Harry
you do
Maguire.
expect it. Yeah, you do expect it from the captain. But the one thing I'll say with Harry Maguire, when he was younger, he was at Sheffield United, and I was there towards the end of my career. He's a player that leads by example, and captains can come in all different shapes and sizes. Now, you look at Manchester City, you look at Liverpool. They've got one captain on the pitch, but there's probably 6 or 7 captains. So it's not just down to the individual one player. It's about a collective, and that's why when the tide's turning against Manchester United at certain times, they can't stop that tide from turning because they don't seem to have the presence, they don't seem to have the voices that are just turning around and saying, listen, let's just sit in at the minute, let's weather out this storm and then we'll go again. Whereas the likes of Manchester United, Manchester City and Liverpool, when the tide turns against them every now and then, they know how to deal with it and then, like I say, just take a deep breath and then go again.
And what I think is difficult for Harry Maguire is, at the moment as well, is that he's struggling a little bit personally for form. So I think, he's not only trying to sort his own game out from a personal perspective, but he's also wearing that armband and almost trying to sort the team issues out as well. And, it almost seems a little bit too much for him in some ways when you haven't got those other personalities in the team, as we say.
Well, Rio Ferdinand said that perhaps Maguire is still suffering from hangover from the Euros, but it's been half a year now. It's been more than half a year now. Are these just main excuses for the way that Maguire is performing at the moment, Francis?
Oh, I mean, everyone has the view and opinion, don't they? I mean, it's who knows? I mean, it'd be interesting, Harry himself. I mean, we've seen certain interviews at times, and people are different. Every individual in the team makeup, you come together as a team, but characters, personalities are all different. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses, not just from a talent and playing perspective, but also their makeup as a person and a human being. I don't know Harry personally, so I'd be interesting to know, how he conveys that leadership as a captain. And Danny says about playing and leading through example, and that's a brilliant way to lead as a captain. But as we've touched on today, you very much need the good teams and the teams that can adapt in the middle of a game and a situation, take control themselves and almost make some decisions themselves along with their teammates and pass that message out in the middle of a game or whilst the game's going on or whilst there's a break in the game. And that's crucial, I think, to pass a message or whatever decisions you're making out there on the pitch. And if that's not really maybe Harry Maguire's makeup and personality, then it needs to come from other players as well. It doesn't, and it shouldn't just be one person and one player only.
Well, there are a lot of fans in Malaysia, Danny, that has suggested that Harry Maguire should be stripped off his captaincy, partially because it might be able to give him better focus on gaining back his form rather than having to worry about being a captain for Manchester United.
I think that would be detrimental because if you strip him of the captaincy, what are you doing? Are you taking him out of the team? Are you just taking the captaincy of him? Are you going to give him the captaincy back? So I think that would be detrimental. Obviously, if he's not starting the games, he's not going to be captain to start. But I just think when you're at a club the size of Manchester United, you're always going to be under scrutiny. And at the moment, Harry Maguire is just going through this bit of a bad spell where every single mistake he makes is leading to a goal. Me and Franny have both been there, but we've not had the spotlight on us because we've not been at a club like Manchester United. So everything is unbelievably magnified. So every mistake Harry Maguire makes, it's, wow, look at that. He's made another mistake. I think, it'd be interesting to see what happens with Rangnick. He's put his trust in, he's put his faith in Harry Maguire. Obviously, Phil Jones, when he's played at times, he's done well. You've got Bailly. But at certain times, managers will be like, okay, you know what? We need him to just play himself into form. So, only Rangnick knows what he's going to do. But every footballer has tough times. But when you're at a top club, it's so scrutinised because you're under the spotlight on a consistent basis.
Do you think he's also...
Well, guys.
So go ahead,
Michelle.
Francis.
I was just going to say, this conversation could have been completely different, though, had Harry Maguire's header gone in from that free kick, and he could have potentially have won his team all 3 points today, and we'd be having a different conversation. So those are the fine margins in this sport that we're talking about, and quite rightly, as coverage on games, we're giving opinions and on players, and and teams. But it could have been very different had that header gone in today. But it was a wonderful save from Forster, I must say.
No, I was going to say that perhaps not just the outcome of the game, but if he didn't cost 80 million, if they didn't cost United 80 million, do you think we would be criticising him this much, the way that we are putting him under the spotlight and scrutinise every single error that he's done, Francis?
It comes with the territory, doesn't it? I think when you come with a price tag, and he's not alone, there's other players. Jadon Sancho has had that as well. Probably even a Ronaldo to a degree, given the honours and the career that he's had. He's very much under a spotlight as well, and I guess players have to deal with that in their own way. And Danny rightly says about the additional spotlight that becomes upon you as a player when you're playing for Manchester United and you are the captain as well. And those are the kind of things that you've got to have the sort of makeup and the personality and character to be able to handle and deal with. But it's a big role, it's a big job, you're at a big club, and these are the kind of pressures that come with that sort of position.
I think one of the things that happens as well is that as a Manchester United supporter, you're always looking back down through the years. So you're used to seeing the success, and you see the armband on Harry Maguire, and this is where the success that teams have had in the past can actually go against them later on. So when people think about captains of Manchester United, you think Roy Keane, you think Brian Robson, you think Gary Neville, you think Eric Cantona. So unfairly, unjustly, Harry Maguire is always going to be compared to previous captains. Manchester United are in a completely different place now, but that's still not going to stop those observations. So that's one thing that will go against you as well. But as we've touched on, it's the size of the club that he's at. The scrutiny will always be there. And with that armband, you're going to have comparisons with previous captains who have done such an unbelievable job and go down in legendary status for Manchester United.
Were you a little bit surprised when you saw the starting 11 today, Danny, considering Maguire did that error against Burnley, that he was again named in the starting 11? And is he there by merit, you think? Or is just perhaps he's there because he is the captain partially? And does he deserve to continue to be in the starting 11?
No, I wasn't surprised at all. I probably would have been more surprised if he wasn't in the starting 11, because one of the things since Rangnick's come into the team, defensively has not been the problem. It's not been, Manchester United have conceded 3, they've conceded 4, they're conceding at every opportunity. Manchester United haven't scored enough goals. I think there's been, under Rangnick, I think maybe there's been 2 games or 3 games at the most where they've scored more than 1 goal. So, once again today you're talking about chances missed. You go to the Burnley game, chances missed. So although Harry Maguire isn't going through the greatest of times at the minute, he's not the sole reason that Manchester United aren't getting the points. For me, it's the sole reason is because they're being wasteful in front of goal.
But
and today
there certainly is arguments that perhaps maybe someone like Phil Jones deserve a chance, because the one time that he did supremely well.
Yeah, of course, I get that. But the thing is, what are you going to do? Are you going to say Harry Maguire coming out of the team for 1 game? Phil Jones has played, 1 game in the last 2 or 3 years? So what you're going to do then? Are you going to bring Phil Jones in and give him the consistency to be able to play for the rest of the season? Or are you going to put him in for 1 game, take him out and put Harry Maguire in? That does no good for either of them. So, it's a fine line for the manager, because what he doesn't want to do is take Harry Maguire out and then completely destroy his confidence. He'll probably be looking at it and thinking, right, okay, can we play him through this? Because, okay, he's made a few mistakes, but Manchester United aren't drawing or aren't losing games because of the amount of goals they're conceding. It's the other end where they're being wasteful at the moment.
I think as a manager as well, and when you're choosing your skipper and your captain, you're picking a player that would be almost like one of the first names on your team sheet. It's somebody that's going to be playing regular. Yes, you want them to lead and through example and their own performances and driving a team on. But again, I don't think it would be helpful if you're chopping and changing and taking players out. That's not to say that captains can't be droppable or should be left out at some stage. But I think at the moment, this is just one of those sort of little blips that and periods that everybody goes through, is just trying to get through it. And it just seems to coincide a little bit where there's criticism towards the team a little bit, as well as personally for him as well. But I'm sure he'll come through that.